Abhishek Malik lived with his family in Haryana till the end of his life. His family was small, but their love was equally strong. His father, Pradeep Malik, was a property dealer. Mom, Santosh Devi, was a housewife, and sister Neha was 1 year younger than Abhishek. So, as I said, Abhishek's father was a property dealer. He was not a small person, he was very popular in his area. His family was one of the richest family in Rohtak. He was one of the richest families because he was such a big property dealer. He had a lot of connections, but in the same way, he had the same number of enemies. That is why he used to keep bodyguards with him and his family, and he used to protect himself and his family. He also kept guns with him, just for their safety. And not only this, he had also taught his family how to use guns. He had taught every member of his family to use guns, just in case if they ever had to protect themselves in the future. If there is a need to do, then they will know what to do. Now, which was the business of property dealing of Pradeep Malik? In this, he had to behave with a lot of power. But the more strict and cold he was in the business of property dealing, the more he used to be motherly and welcoming and loving towards his family. He used to fulfill all the responsibilities of his family properly, and he used to fulfill all the demands of his children. Whether it was celebrating his children's birthdays with pomp or giving them big gifts, so you can say that he loved spoiling his kids with money and luxurious things. And the lifestyle of his son Abhishek was also similar to some extent. He was only 20 years old, and he used to drink coffee in Starbucks almost every day. If you look at his Instagram profile, you will get the idea of what I'm trying to say. Abhishek also had a younger sister in his house, but everyone in his house loved Abhishek very much. One reason was that he was the son of the family. He was the elder son. But the second reason was that he was the heir of his house. And it is still the harsh reality of India that in many Indian families, in many states, boys are seen as a lamp in the house, even if these households. That's why Pradeep was very proud of his children, especially his son. He used to take him everywhere with him. He was very happy to see him with a gun, and he used to flaunt him in front of his friends. Perhaps Pradeep might have felt that his son would grow up and take over his business. But like his father, Abhishek had no interest in property dealing. He was interested in styling and wearing clothes. He had participated in many pageants and had won many pageants. At the same time, he was also interested in the job of cabin crew, and he studied in Delhi. Had also done a course for cab crew, but he did not do the job of cab crew. And after the course, he came back home, and he was now studying BCom. His routine was such that he often went out for lunch with his friends. And we can't really blame him for having this routine because he had all the privileges and he was 20 years old. And I know this thing that 20-year-old boys enjoy partying a lot. So every day. On 27th August 2021, he woke up in the morning, and after having breakfast with his family, he left home at around 11 a.m. To meet his friends. He first went to a hotel to pick up his friend from there. Both of them went to a restaurant where they had lunch. Then Abhishek went to party with some of his friends, and by 2 p.m. he returned home, and after coming home, he rang the bell of his house, but no one was opening the door. So first he waited for 5 to 10 minutes, but when no one answered him, he first called his mom, and when he called, the phone was ringing, but no one was picking up his call. Abhishek then called his father, and then again the same thing happened. Now he started getting nervous. Then he called his sister, but again, no one answered his calls. So when no one was answering, he was living in his neighborhood. He called his uncle and told him that no one is opening the door. What should I do? His uncle heard that Abhishek was in a lot of panic, so he suggested him that you should open the door. Break and go inside and do this thing quickly. And by this time, his uncle had come here from the neighborhood, so somehow Abhishek and his uncle broke the door of their house, but as soon as these people entered inside the house, his soul shuddered. His father's body was lying in the room below, and he was no more. He immediately went to check his sister, mother, and grandmother. His mother and grandmother were dead, but his sister was still breathing. Abhishek knew this, that he could no longer waste time because every second mattered for his sister's life. He immediately took his sister to the hospital, but unfortunately, 2 days later, his sister also died. Within minutes, a news spread in the entire neighborhood that Pradeep is killed by someone. There was blood in his house, and the entire locality had gathered at Abhishek's house. When the police were taking away the dead bodies of Abhishek's family, you can see how much Abhishek was in a state of excitement. That day, early in the morning, he met his family. He was having breakfast with Abhishek, and within no time his entire family was destroyed. When the bodies of his family were being taken away, Abhishek was crying, and people were trying to control him. Even the police showed respect to Abhishek because the poor guy was only 20 years old. And the photos, I think, would be blurry. But his family was killed so brutally that they had no other choice. Their condition was so cruel that people were saying that I wish to God that this should not happen to any enemy. But after all, who was this man who hated Pradeep's entire family so much, and he thought it right to kill them so brutally? The police also said the same, and police was busy in finding out, and no one was out of her suspect list, be it her maternal uncle, be it her uncle, be it her rival in her business. One by one, the police started asking everyone, but they did not have any evidence. So it was very important for the police to take Abhishek's statement, even if he was in pain, because he was the only one who had interacted with his family for the last time. He was also a person who had seen his family for the last time, and he was a person who had seen his family for the first time after a murder or after a bloodshed. But when the police were interrogating Abhishek, they noticed a very unusual thing. Abhishek was not behaving like a typical boy at the time of interrogation, and when he was called for questioning for the second time after being interrogated for the first time, when he went, his statement was not matching with his first statement. Hence, the police started having a little doubt about Abhishek. But first they searched wherever Abhishek had gone on 27th August. Interrogated them and found out that he was telling the truth, but the police got some more information. Abhishek was staying in that hotel since 25th August, and he had returned home only on 27th. So what he had said was that in the morning, after knowing that he had gone to meet his friends in the morning, it was a lie. When the police inquired in Abhishek's neighborhood, they came to know that there were always fights in Abhishek's house. There were always sounds of shouting coming from his house. And mostly all these fights, all these voices, whatever was the reason for all this, it was Abhishek only. There were always fights in Malik's family, and Abhishek was missing from his house for many days, not just from that day. The police came to know about it. This is a very suspicious thing. Trying their luck, Abhishek was again called for interrogation. Every time the police talked to Abhishek, they used to talk to him very softly and very lovingly, because they knew this thing, that Abhishek has just made his family loose, but if they wanted to know the whole truth, then they had to be strict with him. And they were right, because when Abhishek was interrogated with a little force, he confessed doing everything. After that, Abhishek Malik confessed that on August 27th, he himself had killed his mom, dad, sister, and grandmother. But why did he do this? When Abhishek Malik was doing his cab crew course in Delhi, he met a boy whose name was Karthik. Gradually, they became friends, and Abhishek started having feelings for Karthik. And not much later, soon after that, he realized that Karthik also liked Abhishek because Abhishek was gay, and he liked this thing. He already knew a lot about himself, but he did not think that Karthik would also like him in that way. But as soon as this thing came to life for both of them, they both got into a relationship. But after the course was over, Abhishek came back to Rohtak, to his home, and Karthik had gone back to his state Uttarakhand. But this did not mean that their relationship had ended. They both used to meet each other often. Mostly Karthik used to come to Rohtak to meet Abhishek. He had also brought Abhishek home several times to his parents by telling them that Karthik was his friend. Karthik's relationship with Abhishek had become so much that even Abhishek's family had become close to him, and many times Karthik stayed in Abhishek's house for weeks. When he used to live, once Karthik had come to stay in Abhishek's house, and this thing had become very common for his family too, so they did not disturb the children. But at this time, when Karthik was living in Abhishek's house, both of them were in the upper floor, and at this time his sister had seen Karthik and Abhishek getting intimate, and Abhishek's sister, Neha, had told this whole thing to her family, and they were not happy with this thing. Being gay is still seen as a taboo. Boys should be macho, alpha. Even today, many people think the same. So, to find out that the lamp of the house is gay, that too in a place like Haryana, you can understand how they felt. It would be so instead of accepting Abhishek and Kartik's relationship, and even instead of accepting just Abhishek the way he was, Pradeep family and Pradeep also felt that their son has gone astray. He does not know what he is saying. So the first thing they did was that they refused to let Karthik into their house and also stopped Abhishek's contact with Karthik. Then they beat Abhishek a lot and scolded him. They shouted a lot and they thought that doing this would be enough for them. Now their son is not gay. Our boy has gone a bit astray. If we shout beyond that, then he will go back from gay to straight. But there is no connection between Abhishek and Karthik. Despite this, they used to meet each other quietly. So after beating them so much, Pradeep felt that now his son has improved. His son has become straight again, but something else stuck in Abhishek's mind. Abhishek and Karthik had made a plan that they would leave India and run away to Europe and start a new life there. However, Karthik also told Abhishek that if he gets his sex change operation done, then both of them can get married. Abhishek had agreed for the operation, but he wanted money 500,000 to be precise. So he asked for this money from his father. But if any 20-year-old boy, if he suddenly say in the house that if you give me 500,000, then the family members will definitely ask. Abhishek's parents also asked him, "Brother, why do you want 500,000? But the obvious thing was that he could not tell his parents that, "Brother, I want to change my gender." Now he started insisting on money again and again, but without giving any reason, and somehow his parents also found out what Abhishek's plan was with this money. As soon as they found out, they again beat Abhishek, stopped his pocket money, and stopped his scooter. They gave it to sister Neha and basically stopped her luxury life in a way. Also, Pradeep had given all his property in the name of his daughter Neha. After this, he thought that now his son will be fine, but what? He forgot that being gay is not a disease, and Abhishek cannot suddenly change his sexual orientation, but now Pradeep was fed up. Abhishek was very close to his grandmother and used to listen to her everything. Last resort, Pradeep called Abhishek's grandmother Roshni Devi so that she could explain well to Abhishek. There was only one thing in Abhishek's mind, that he had to change his gender and marry Karthik. But in the middle of his grand plan, his family was coming. So he thought that if I remove my family members from my path, then I can live my life on my own terms, as I want. I can live it as I want. So on 25th August 2021, Karthik came from Uttarakhand to Rohtak. He and Abhishek stayed in that hotel till the morning of 27th, after which Abhishek went to his home. At 10:30 in the morning, he had breakfast with his mom, dad, and grandmother. After breakfast, he went to his sister's room, which was in the house. Neha was on the first floor. At that time, she was lying in the bed, and Abhishek went straight to her room. The first thing he did was to open the TV and increase its volume. Neha did not understand what was happening there, and before she could even understand anything, Abhishek took out the gun and shot Neha in the head, and then he came back down into the house and called his grandmother to his room, saying that he learned to play a new song on the guitar, and he wanted her to sing that song to him. So Roshni Devi went to Abhishek's room with him, but as soon as she reached the room, Abhishek fired at her too. The bullet passed through her head and she died instantly. But even after killing 2 people, Abhishek did not stop here. He again went down to his mom, and when his mom asked him why this sound of singing was coming from upstairs and where is your grandmother, then indicate that the grandmother is on the upper floor. When Abhishek's mom went to Abhishek's room to see his mother, she saw her mother lying on the floor covered in her own blood. As soon as she turned back, she saw Abhishek pointing a gun in his hand. And before she could register what Abhishek was going to say or what happened here, Abhishek shot at him too. And now only Abhishek's dad Pradeep was left sitting in his room using the phone. And because of the sound of music, it was so loud that he did not even realize that someone had been murdered in the house and that his son had committed 3 murders in the house. Abhishek came and sat near him, took out a gun, and within seconds, he shot Pradeep. But Abhishek did not stop there. He shot another bullet at Pradeep, just to make sure that his father was dead. Then he stole some jewelry from the house so that the police would think that there was a theft in the house. He took it out of the house, locked it, and sitting in his car, he went from there towards the hotel where Karthik and he were staying for the last 2 days. On the way to the hotel, he threw the gun in a canal. If you watch the video, you won't even believe that this is the same boy who came back an hour ago after killing his entire family. He looks so calm and composed, it's really shocking and kind of scary. Also, after meeting Karthik, both of them were at a restaurant, after which Abhishek went to party with some of his friends. And after some time, he dropped Karthik at the hotel, and after that, he started his acting. I'm saying acting because you can watch this video once. Look at it now. With the knowledge that the person who is crying so loudly that the people around him are feeling so bad for him is the same person who himself had killed these people. To think that just 20 years at this age, a person can think to such an extent that this is just insane. So after getting all these evidences, and after Abhishek's confession, Abhishek is now currently in jail, but there is no latest update from jail. So even we don't know where he is. We don't know this case is closed. Even it was in 2021, but Indian law system is right, so we don't know that whether this case is closed or not. But yes, we know this thing for sure, that Abhishek is going to stay in jail for a long time. And the boy whom Abhishek was in love with and with whom he was in a relationship, due to which he murdered his family members. That boy had given it. Now he is married, and he is living happy in his life. We all know that in India, parents do not accept whether their son or daughter is homosexual or they want to identify with some other sexuality. I know this thing is very easy to say, but I hope that we progress in such a direction where it becomes easy to accept all these things in India also. But with that, Abhishek Malik's case is halted here. If you guys like watching true crime documentary, please subscribe to me because I make the same here. I'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.